Now, before you leave a comment, I know what you're thinking. Eli, are you honestly saying that Black Ops 4 Zombies wasn't that bad? And the answer is no. That might be a slight exaggeration, but the reason I'm making this video is, ever since Vanguard Zombies has released, I've seen so many people say this. We all know, as I've mentioned many times, the situation with Vanguard Zombies. It is considered by most people to be in a very bad state, and one of the main reasons for that is the lack of content, and I think because of that, we've seen so many people say, well, actually, seeing this, Black Ops 4 Zombies wasn't that bad. Because I'd say before Vanguard Zombies, for most people, Black Ops 4 Zombies was considered to be the worst. That was what people's view was during Cold War, and to be fair, that's also what people thought during its life cycle. For me, personally, Black Ops 4 Zombies was nowhere near the best, but was it really that bad? And that's the question what I want to go back and take a look at and try and answer in today's video. Now, usually when I do something like this, I take down notes. I've done kind of small reviews for BO2 Zombies, BO1. I did Black Ops 3 a week or two ago. Normally, I only have to write down a couple of notes, but for Black Ops 4, I've got so much written on this piece of paper here just because the game, if you can remember, had so much content. It was a massive contrast in that department compared to Vanguard or even Cold War, or even the games before that. I don't think anyone's going to argue that Black Ops 4 Zombies had the most content we've ever seen. There was 4 Zombies maps at launch, 4 other Zombies maps as a part of the usual cycle, 2/3 different game modes if you don't class normal round-based, a new, in quotation marks, innovative perk system. We'll come back to that one. Those are Treyarch's words, not mine. Tons of traps and buildables, a new storyline, some amazing cutscenes, tons of gameplay changes, including the health system. There was no Juggernog. Special weapons were introduced for the first time properly. I know we saw this in BO3, but nowhere near in the way we saw it introduced in this game. One thing you have to admit for BO4 Zombies is Treyarch definitely tried to change things up. That doesn't always mean it's a good thing. We've seen that with Vanguard Zombies, getting rid of the classic round-based zombies mode and giving us something new. Again, their words, not mine. But yeah, Black Ops 4 Zombies, at the beginning at least, you can't criticise Treyarch for putting all of their effort into this game. That's definitely how it came across. And that's not even mentioning the special edition of this game, which came with a mystery box, the Zombies comics that released alongside it. I felt like for the first time ever in Call of Duty's history, the Zombies mode was being promoted and actually, in my opinion, was being pushed even harder than the multiplayer. If you weren't around during that time, if you just started playing Zombies during Cold War or Vanguard, or if you just never played this game at all, you might be thinking, hang on, this sounds amazing. With all of this content and all of these changes, how can this be classed by most people in the community to be the worst Zombies game we've had? And well, let's see. So the first thing I've got on my list is the fact that BO4 Zombies had 3 different modes. The classic survival, and then 2 others known as Rush and Gauntlet. Now, I can't speak too much about these because I just didn't play them enough. Rush, as the name implies, was more like a fast-paced mode where you were forced to stay in certain areas of maps in order to obtain points, and Gauntlet was basically round-based zombies but with challenges. You could play with up to 4 players, it consisted of 30 rounds, and each round had a unique challenge that the players had to complete in order to progress on to the next round. In principle, it sounds good, but like I said, I really can't give you my opinion of them because I never played them, and if you try to now, the player count on BO4 Zombies, on the console I play at least, isn't too high. In terms of gameplay features, one of the other major differences that was added into this game was special weapons. Each character, whether it be Chaos or Primus, had a specific special weapon that was designed for them. Whilst you could pick any one of the 8 you wanted to suit your gameplay style, there was the Hellfire, the Death Machine, the Path of Sorrows, the Ragnaroks, those were all Primus weapons, and then for the Chaos crew we had the Chakrams of Vengeance, the Hammer, the Scepter of Ra, and the Viper of Dragon. In my opinion, the Chaos weapons were a lot more fun, just because the Primus or Ultimus ones weren't really unique to zombies. Stuff like the Flamethrower and the Death Machine were from multiplayer, the Ragnaroks we'd seen previously, but the Chaos special weapons were definitely unique and very fun to use. But the argument was during that time, did it make zombies too easy? It was basically a crutch. Whenever you got into a sticky situation, you could whip out your special weapon, and it was pretty much almost guaranteed. You could say depending on which one you're using, but you should, as long as it was charged, always survive. For some people, it just made zombies too easy, knowing that if you were on the brink of death, you could whip this out. Whilst you did have to wait for it to be charged, so you couldn't keep spamming it, you would have to be careful for a certain amount of time after you'd used it. I can remember during the time agreeing on this point, and I still do now, but if you compare it to what we have in Cold War or Vanguard, is it really any different to the field upgrades? I wouldn't say so. That's the route that Zombies has gone down now. So perhaps at the time during Black Ops 4, for some people special weapons were a problem, but seeing something very similar in all of Treyarch Zombies games after that, Cold War and Vanguard, being the field upgrades and the artifacts, it's almost not a complaint anymore. especially now we're used to this kind of thing. And also the special weapons, for me, were a lot more fun. But to counter this, if you were one of those people that thought special weapons made the game too easy, well, on the other side of the argument, there was a new perk system. Juggernog was no longer in the game, and I don't know how many of you will be able to remember this. You might do if you played BO4 as soon as it came out, but originally it was a 3-hit down system. And because there was no Juggernog, that was it. The health on BO4 zombies compared to previous titles when you had Jug, it was a lot lower. Now, Treyarch did change this. I think it was a week or two after the game came out, just because it was so difficult. Treyarch added an extra 50 health, meaning we could now take 4 hits before going down, but still, because there was no Juggernog, Black Ops 4 Zombies, in terms of how many hits you could take, it was still a lot harder than any other zombies game out there, which was a complaint for people. If you aren't that good at the game, making it more challenging in that aspect can be annoying. And again, when you compare that to Cold War and Vanguard, the games that have released since then, these games are super easy compared to not only BO4, but World at War to BO3 as well. Zombies was a lot harder than it is now. And having no Juggernog for the first time since it was introduced, it felt like Treyarch were trying to get rid of something that was a staple of Call of Duty Zombies. Something that we were all used to, and well, these perks were famous. If you ask anyone out there, even people who don't play COD, what Juggernog is, or if they've heard of Double Tap, Speed Kill or something like that, I guarantee you a lot of people will say, yeah, I know that, it's from COD Zombies. So to get rid of the OG perks was a big letdown, and also to change the system, how they worked, I can see what Treyarch were trying to do. They were trying to innovate. What they wanted to do was give us a choice, let us decide what perks we wanted to use, but for me it had the opposite effect. It actually made me feel like I didn't need perks anymore. I played a lot of games where I not only didn't bother buying them in game, but I also didn't bother customizing them in the menu, picking which ones I wanted. To me there was a lot of pointless ones in there, and when they removed the basic ones, the ones that we were used to, I don't know, I see what Treyarch were trying to do. Obviously they got it wrong because they reverted back to the old perk system, but a more improved version in Cold War. Can you imagine if Black Ops 4 had Cold War's perk system, or even the original one? I think that would have changed a lot of minds on this game, including mine. That really was one, if not the biggest problem now I think about it. And the final couple of things I want to quickly touch on, which a lot of people class as the bad portion of this game, was 1, the HUD. It was very cluttered, it didn't look good, it did take away immersion, but again I think if you compare it to Cold War's HUD or Vanguard, now that you've got covenants on the screen or a compass, a map, those games are just as cluttered. That's something we've got used to, so maybe going back to it, the HUD isn't a problem. And the other one is the maps, which also ties into the story. There was 2 different stories going on at the same time, both Chaos and Ether. I think what Treyarch should have done is wrapped up the Ether story first and then started the Chaos one, or actually, now that we have the Dark Ether story in Cold War and Vanguard, it might have been better that they finished off the Chaos story first and then carried on with the Ether story, just because the Dark Ether storyline is a continuation of that. It takes place after BO4 but in a different universe. And also the maps, yes, there was a lot of them, but some were controversial. Blood of the Dead wasn't as good as Map of the Dead. I think Classified was better than 5, but some people don't. I wasn't a fan of Voyage of Despair, but the rest, 9 especially, was amazing. And then there was Dead of the Night and Ancient Evil. And of course the final 2 maps for Ether, Tag der Toten and Alpha Omega, like all of the Ether maps were remakes or reimagined, I guess you could say. They were older maps, but not exactly the same. Still though, pretty good. The major letdown being the ending of the Ether story. Not so much in terms of the story, I'm quite happy story-wise with how it finished, but the final map being Tag der Toten, what we all expected, and rightly so, that's what we were led to believe through radios, ciphers, documents. We thought we would be going back to the Great War to kill Dr. Monty in a big final boss battle. That never happened. In that sense, the end for BO4 was a letdown. Story-wise though, I think it was okay. And I suppose the final thing we should touch on is Easter eggs. Black Ops 4 Zombies had so much in terms of side Easter eggs, main quests, boss battles, some epic ones as well, and it makes you appreciate that now, seeing the lack of them in Cold War and Vanguard Zombies. So with all of this, was BO4 Zombies really that bad? It's a difficult one to answer because some of the bad stuff that we considered back then has continued on in games after. The major big problem was the perk system. I honestly think if that just didn't exist and it was the OG one or the Cold War one, this game would be ranked so much higher in a lot of people's lists. So was it really that bad? I'll leave that for you to decide in the comments. Anyway, there we go. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.